Radio Zero.
It's Radio Zero with Rick and Rose. Friday, November 4th, 2022. Which I kind of can't believe.
I am fading, so I can't. I have. Whoops. I have my list of things to say, but I didn't scroll down. Okay. You can subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. You can go to radiozero.us. We're live streaming on Facebook. We have lately been live streaming every other Friday at 4 p.m. Central. Now that I'm saying that, of course, next time we'll be at a completely different time. But it's starting to seem consistent. So we're live streaming on Facebook on the Radio Zero page and the Poster Children page, on Twitch at PCJCUSA, and on the Poster Children YouTube channel. You can patronize us at patreon.com/Radio Zero. Thank you for everyone who has been patronizing us.
That's right.
Make the show possible and easier on our pocketbook.
The show pays for itself.
The show that pays for itself. Yes.
Did you see that? Like, I saw, like, there was some kind of meme that went across my feed. It was like, dude sitting all by himself, playing his guitar, or with recording stuff, and he's like, what if nobody ever listens to this? And then, like, podcast scenario right next to it is like three dudes just sitting there going, dude, I was
shopping today.
I was buying ice cream, and the woman just took forever to, just talking about mundane, everyday things, and, and not caring. And I'm like, well, that's why we invented podcasting.
It's
and
the
we
classic.
We did invent podcasting.
Old school podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
People blathering on for an hour about the mundane aspects of their lives.
We started this podcast, though. Do you remember? Trying to figure out why we did all this stuff. Like, I think I started writing tour reports because you said to. That's in my book anyway, so it's true now. It's history.
That's right.
Like, you told me to. You're
Print the
you
legend.
should just write this. And then this was like, we were sitting in the van and talking. We're like, oh, these are such interesting conversations. And then everywhere we would stop when we were on tour, we'd sleep on people's floors, but we'd have like the most interesting conversations with people. And it was like, wow, we should start recording these and just have the sound file up online and people could just listen to it. And that was 1998.
Mm-hmm.
The history of
the
podcast.
Yes.
Like, that's right. Danny Ingram remembers the tour reports. Thank you. We just had this meeting about marketing, putting together, marketing together. What would you call it? Bundling the Flower Plower record with my book, which is I'm just sitting there
yeah. So stay
people
tuned.
Are talking
Soon
about.
We will have information about the vinyl reissue of Flower Plower, double vinyl, and Rose's book. So yes, that news will be coming soon.
And if you bought the book already, you'll have a discount code for buying Flower Plower. And if you bought Flower Plower already, is it vice versa?
No,
okay.
Not if you bought Flower Plower in 1990.
No, not that. No, but if you buy the new Flower
give
Plower, do you get a bundle? You could, right? Or you don't have to if you don't want to read my stupid book.
Well, we'll have a bundle of the vinyl and your book. So yeah, if you're going to buy the vinyl, you can buy it along with your book.
I'm glad. So I have two parts about my dad in the book. So my dad, we went through this huge scare with my dad this over the past couple of weeks. He's got thyroid cancer, and we had to have his heart checked to see if they could do a general anesthesia to take the thyroid cancer out again. And he's had it before. And then now we just found out just recently that, so I was like, my daddy's gonna, he's 94. But I write about him a little bit in my book. And I was thinking, I'm not going to be able to tell him the extra part that I wrote about him. He knows the other part because it already happened, but then I have this sort of theater of the mind. My dad would say this to me if I said this to him at the end of the book. And I was like, now I can tell him. So I better tell him, soon. Tell those people who you love the things that you want to tell them.
Yeah.
And and we're waiting for my mom now to go in the hospital. It's pretty scary.
Yeah, your mom who's younger, but still
Yeah.
not a spring chicken. So
Right,
now
right.
we're a little worried about your mom.
Yeah.
So hopefully everything will be okay.
And I'm like looking, I was like watching like I'm going over my videos from the COVID, from 2020 when we all this was the time when, well, no, it wasn't this. This was not the time. But it was during this time in the semester where we were like, wow, we're not coming back. Everything's going to be on video. So I'm looking at my videos. Well, it was this time though that like my cancerversary is coming up. I'm hoping that I'll go into Jody's office again on November 11th, and she'll sing "Happy Cancerversary, Happy Cancer." I'm like waiting for that to happen, but they're like I'm watching videos from, it's like the day before I found out, and like the day after I found out. There's like just me talking like, "Hey guys, here's how you do object-oriented coding," like. It's like I'm like watching this video. This is so weird, right? Like. It's weird, like the persistence of the media that we are going to have, now. Like we had a kid over here at our house that doesn't have a phone yet, 13-year-old kid who doesn't have a phone yet. And our kids had a phone forever. But, I think you guys were looking at some of his pictures. Like he was like going, like nostalgically going through his like Google Photos or something like that. Maybe he was doing that with me. He's like, look at this picture I took, 3 years ago. And I'm thinking, that everybody's life is going to be persistent. And by persistent, I mean it's there, to visit, for the rest of your life. Probably you'll be able to find it online. But the kid without the phone is missing that.
Well, yeah. So having a, well, oh yeah, no, we were going through to try to clear out our kids' Google Drive,
right?
Google Space,
full, right?
because it was full. But I think
Cody
that was because
B.
he was shooting raw photos.
Oh,
So he had those huge backups. But yeah, and I just ran into this problem where I was reading a story about someone who had gotten their house broken into, and the thieves had stolen all of their hard drives, and this person had been very careful about their backups, but they had backed up everything over the years and their music, but then somebody robbed the house and took the hard drives, and then a whole bunch of people kind of piled on and said, well, you weren't careful with your backups because you had your backups in the same place as your stuff, right? And you're supposed to have an offsite backup.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Backup.
crap, yeah, I really need to do that. And then I'm looking at all these, cloud-based backups, but I don't need a cloud-based backup that just backups my computer. I need something that backs up all the frickin' photographs I have, and then all the audio files and everything like that. And I've finally settled on to long-term cold storage from one of our monstrous overlords to do that, rather than, I don't need backups that I can. No, I don't need backups that I can access immediately. I just need a backup if everything burns down, sometime in the next 30 years, I can still pull those files. But it's a huge amount of stuff. And then whenever I go through that process, and I've occasionally gone through the process of, for instance, scanning my dad's slides. So my dad was, took photographs of lots of stuff during the film era, and we have, I don't know, probably 50 carousels of slides, and I went through maybe 5 of them at some point
and scanned them. Yeah. Well, your dad your dad would come back from Ireland and have 4,000 pictures of Ireland.
Yeah, and so that was the thing.
Hills.
Is I was already, I already have that, and then it's like, oh, how am I going to back this up? And I keep that in case someone, in my family years from now wants this stuff. And then, but also, I was already filtering stuff. It's like anything that didn't really have a person in it. I didn't scan.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is an interesting tree, but I'm not going to scan that, right?
Isn't that funny? Now, so do you remember when we were in Tibet?
Yeah.
And we went to Tibet and we went to Nepal, right? And we were at some point we were on a little tour with 5 other people or something, because you couldn't go into Tibet with less than 5 people.
Yeah. What's the name of that? The Toyota Jeep vehicle. I don't know. It's a
Yeah,
classic.
We were in like a little tiny little
Yeah.
shuttle bus or
You'd be
something.
oh yeah, that's right. It was a little
Yeah.
larger of a
Yeah,
bus. That's right.
yeah.
The rich people had the Toyota
Right.
Land
right,
Cruiser.
Right.
is it?
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That was the
Yeah.
rich people were going through Tibet in that, which is just like 3 to 4 people in a Toyota with a driver. Right.
But every
were
time
on
we-
the little bus
but-
with 5
with
other
5 people.
Yeah.
But we were looking. We always wanted to take pictures without any other people in them. Remember that?
Yeah, it's a little weird. I don't know if I have any photos of the people. I remember the people we
Yeah,
were on.
Yeah.
That
There's
drive
like a
with.
couple.
It was like a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was the couple with the
Yeah.
they'd been traveling around the world. They were like travel agents or something, right? This was still back
They
when
were just seasoned travelers.
No,
Oh,
I felt
you
like
think they were
and then
travel-
they booked a tour around the world.
Yeah.
And what was funny, I guess, I don't know, it's like at some point in South America, right, the woman had to be airlifted off of a mountain because she got
Altitude
sickness. And
And
then
then we were up-
here she was on this trip up into the what are they called? Himalayas.
Yeah.
Through the Himalayas, and it was like she was starting to get sick, and it was like, I would only do that once. I wouldn't go through the experience again. But they were, and she made it right. They didn't have to airlift her, but she was
she was really
So there was
sick.
that, and then there was the guy who was the courier
The
in
spy.
quotes.
The spy.
He was a courier
Yeah, we
for
were
the
the
State
spy.
Department.
Yeah.
But he also had 2 passports, so
Yeah.
we're going through
That was cool.
contentious political territory.
Yeah, we don't have pictures of them. We
No, we don't
made
have pictures of them.
I think I have a picture of us sitting like in a Tibetan cafe in the Chicago of Tibet.
And then there was the German guy who was in his 60s. who
Oh
had
yeah, the
girlfriend,
30-year-old girlfriend.
but then
who was
his daughter also,
who
right?
was best friends with his daughter. Yeah,
Right,
that
who was
nice.
around the
Yeah.
same age. So
Yeah.
that weird dynamic. And
Those were the people on the tour. We
Yeah.
don't have pictures of them
We
because
don't
we
have
were like,
pictures of
every
them.
time we went to take. And this is not what we wanted to talk about. So,
But
all I have.
I don't know. People.
interesting.
I don't know if we've
Yeah.
talked about this before.
We
This is some
probably
weird,
haven't.
random,
Yeah,
interesting thing. But yeah, we don't have
Going to
documented
Tibet.
that.
we went to Tibet. There were lots of Buddhas, lots of stupas.
We got followed by men in very nice jackets who would just kind of wander around behind us, about 10 feet behind us,
You know,
whenever we were
I had
touring around.
Yeah, I had an interesting. So in Lhasa, I was just sitting on on a wall, as one does outside of one of the temples, and I think you were resting in the hotel, or the whatever it was that we stayed in. I don't know if I'd call it a hotel, but I was sitting out there, and a monk came up to me, and sat down next to me, and I was like, "Hi, monk," and then he started writing letters on his hand. He wrote the letter A, and then he's pointed to it, and he's like, "Ah," and I'm like, "A, that's A," and then he erase it, and then he'd do B, and he's like, "What?" So I was teaching him. He wanted to hear from a native English speaker. How to say the alphabet and stuff. So I sat with him for a long time, teaching him the alphabet. That was really fun. So yeah, Tibet, go there. Who knows what it'll still?
Yeah,
who knows what
I'm
it'll
not
look like now?
We were. Yeah. It was quite a while ago, 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago.
Yeah. So all I have on here in my notes is Lil Darky.
Oh man, I don't think I want to talk about that.
Okay. You don't want to talk about Lil Darky and his Holocaust song?
I do not.
Well, I could talk about it. One of our in one of our classes, it was not my class, but in one of our classes, students were showing work, and some students showed the work of Little Darky.
But
And then the professor came in, to because the professor at that point was worried about, as one would, that some of the other students in the class might be offended by that. And what happened then? Well, the rest is history. No,
No, it's just a difficult situation.
Yeah. What do
because-
you do? Yeah.
Yeah.
He
it's
came
trying
in.
to
I was
navigate.
like he told me all that happened, and I was like, the first thing I said was is it a white kid? And he said, yeah. And I was like, okay. And I don't, it shouldn't be important, but it's important. I think it isn't. I think it is important.
Yeah, no. So what we're learning is, and what I'm learning as a Gen X person is that everything that I just have built into me, where it's like, this is obvious that that's racist and wrong, and you shouldn't. And I'm not specifically talking about this incident. It's like everything that I kind of like go, no, duh, is like not obvious to everyone, and just because someone's younger. And I think the problem is that it at least when I was, and we've talked about this before, when I was brought up, we were brought up to be sensitive, culturally aware, right? And like, oh no, that's racist. You don't say that.
Yeah.
That's
all right. But
these people have been discriminated against.
Yeah.
You should not be anti-Semitic, right?
Right.
And
but
it's like,
you
or saying
can,
that can be construed
right.
as anti-Semitic, and
right,
saying
but
that
you
can be construed as racist. And
but
it's
you
like,
could support a black guy and his music. You could be like, I like this guy. I like that he's saying this stuff. I like he's co-opted all these slurs or whatever. And so then as a white kid, you can be like, well, I like this guy. I'm supporting. So I don't.
And so that's not the problem. Yeah.
complicated.
So that's the thing is trying to figure out if someone is doing that or if someone is just, yeah. So that's the problem is that my assumption, I think if it was one of my peers, right, a punk rocker or something, it would be like, oh, they're looking at it as a critique, right? And they're seeing the critique that's built into this artist's work.
Yeah.
Right. And I would just assume that that's where a person who was showing it was coming from, right? But I think because my assumption is that it's obvious, and this using irony or using this kind of contrary perspective in order to reveal. We've talked about this. The voice of the monster, all that kind of stuff, right? That's a very 80s kind of punk rock.
These students are just learning about this, so
right.
you wouldn't,
you don't know.
You'd have to, and even if it is like, it's not going to be from a racist point of view, I don't think, but it's going to be from a point of view where there isn't enough information that has been disseminated to this person yet. So there could be a discussion about it. So I opted for, hey, listen, if anybody, this is not what is supposed to be taught in the class. Like we're not equipped to talk about microaggressions in the course. We're going to have we're going to have a discussion, like a lot of EDI discussions in the future. But for right now, if you are upset, please contact me. And just to, kind of treat it like that. Whereas one of our colleagues, which I thought was just brilliant, was like, well, I would take a very hard, disciplined, like academic view on it. I would not get upset. I would not show that students, I would show an alternative, like method of handling this where I could talk about the academic rigor in this and, okay, well, what are you trying to say here? Well, how is this not racist? And, just like do it like perfectly clearly without any kind of like, oh, I hope nobody's feeling hurt or anything. And I was like, oh man, that's brilliant. So I really like that. So wait, Danny Ingram has to go to a family birthday party in a bit. But just in case, he says the megalomaniacal, homunculus Elon Musk is a topic of conversation today. I want to go on record as saying fuck him and curious if he will affect your presence on Twitter. So I know that he's on your list. So
yeah, no, that's on our topic list.
Yeah. So you want to?
We have a topic list. Which we have not. The day we have a topic list, we have spent 20 minutes not talking. No, it's not.
It's 4:20 right now. So go ahead. Go start with Elon Musk. I have to answer somebody here. We have a caller on Facebook.
Well, I was a little worried. I mean, Jonas, who was on the show about a year ago, talking about he had actually. Oh, that's right. Or was it 2 years ago when he had left? Base camp, right? 37. Yeah, base camp. Because there was a contentious issue, with actually, based, around insensitivity and racism, right? And people left that company and he went over to Twitter. And then I was like, oh my gosh, when this Twitter stuff was happening, I was like, oh, I hope Jonas is okay. But Jonas has, last month left Twitter and has jumped over to Figma. So that's really great. I was relieved about that. So first off, about the Twitter stuff is I had a moment of panic when I realized, oh, Jonas was at Twitter. I hope he's okay. And then it was like, oh, he is. He jumped. He definitely got out of there.
So
and has some interesting comments if you look on Twitter about Twitter.
Oh yeah, I saw he had tweeted something.
Yeah. So yeah.
Do we?
One of his points was it needs more consistency, not more inconsistent, right? Like constant or trying to change it and shake it up so much, right? That's not the problem. It's more about kind of having some kind of consistency, over time. But anyways, what do I think about it? I heard a really interesting thing about just the economics of Twitter, and then the reality of Twitter, which is like we're not active on Twitter. I just put stuff up on Twitter, so I have a Twitter handle, whatever they call it, and then Poster Children does. But what do I do on the Poster Children one? I just repost Radio Zero episodes, and then anytime we have a release or something or a show, right, I'll put stuff up on Twitter. So not hugely active on Twitter, and me personally too. Also my personal Twitter. So for us, I think it's just going to be like Facebook and all the other social media, unless it goes south super quickly. But that was what was interesting when I heard about the economic stuff is like, and also this person was saying that, well, Twitter's not like another kind of startup company. You don't just solve problems by engineering, right? So in theory, like at a place like Tesla, right, you could solve problems with engineering. But social networks, the problem is that a lot of these people think they can solve any problems with social networking with technical solutions, right? Oh, if we just we can engineer away the problem. And this guy said Elon Musk has become the world's sort of top politician, basically is what he's saying. So not top tech entrepreneur, right? It's like it's a political position where it's like he's got to navigate all these different constituents and these promises he's made, right? About free speech.
Yeah. And
he's going to have to figure out how to balance all that without also upsetting advertisers. So that's the big thing is like, so the big problem is if you turn your social network into a free speech cesspool, right? And by that, not meaning that I'm against free speech, I'm against anarchist, totally unregulated.
You don't
free
like
speech.
Anarchists?
No, I'm talking about like 4chan or whatever, right? That kind of free speech, right?
Hate speech.
Yeah, it kind of degrades, right? Speech without limits. There's a difference, I would say.
Between yelling fire and open.
You have the free speech movement at Berkeley, right? And then you have the free speech movement of I want to be able to say racist.
So you like the left-wing free speech movement, is what you're saying? The hard left, communist. Did you just okay?
Yeah.
Wait. So Clint Gascoigne here is saying that you have a weird echo going on. That's because we did the Zoom.
I did a Zoom earlier and then I messed up something.
And Cody B says hello. And Tim Bowers says, please give a shout out to my brother, Chris, from U of I, 1989. Hi, Chris Bowers. And Tim Bowers is in Hilton Head. Not in Europe. Yeah, he's actually in America.
My family went to Hilton Head, like in a preview kind of opening situation. Like it was still under construction.
Wow.
So this would have been like 71, 72.
You had your first rib there. Not McRib, but rib.
I had my first Dr. Pepper. So that was when Dr. Pepper was still a mostly Southern drink, and I remember going to a vending machine and getting a Dr. Pepper. I remember we ate breakfast at a restaurant, or at the every day, which we had never done. My family didn't eat at a restaurant back then. Kids didn't go to restaurants, so we were little kids going to a restaurant. So that was fascinating. But it was so stuff was still sort of under construction. Because
Did you fix your
It's
Echo though?
cheap. I don't know if I did. Probably not.
Do you remember what you used to have to do to fix it?
Yes, and that's
Okay.
what I thought I did.
Oh, all right. Well, I don't. Nobody has said anything else except for Dannon, who's saying he was avoiding saying anything about the Echo.
Because of how much it upsets me. I know it upsets Rick.
Okay, so I was sitting on the toilet and I purposefully didn't bring my phone in because my elbow is hurting because I think I use my phone too much. I have phone elbow.
I think I may have fixed it.
Oh, good.
We'll see.
So I was sitting on the toilet, and so there's like the Time magazine was in there, and it had cause my dad bought Time magazine for our children, and so I did the what is it called, the optical illusion on the front cover, and then I was like, well, I may as well open it up and see what's in it. So I noticed a news story, and then and now I'm realizing that I don't listen to the news really at all. Like my news getting is not even on Facebook either. Like I like play the NPR news like at night when I'm brushing my teeth. That's it. I get like the 10 p.m. NPR news. So apparently somebody named Kanye West like went crazy again. He's a singer, I guess, and like said a bunch of shit, like and like some of it was against you. Like what did he wear, a White Lives Matter shirt or something, and then he did something else, and then so all the advertisers took their advertising away from him, right, or something like that.
He's
and then
losing a
right,
lot
and then the last one was
partnerships.
Adidas
Yeah.
was the last to take away. And the Time magazine little blurb makes a note that Adidas, which was founded by people who were in the Nazi Party. And at that point,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know it either.
Oh, I did read a little history. They definitely were. Yes, so they were part of the military supply chain.
Yeah.
During World War II.
Well, that's
and
nice.
In order to do that, yeah, you would most likely have to be
part of the Nazi
member
Party.
Of the Nazi Party.
Wait, so how isn't it an American company or it's not?
No,
it's
German
company.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I just bought like a really nice dress. It's an Adidas dress. Does that make me a Nazi supporter?
No, it's the same thing as like driving a BMW or a Volkswagen, maybe.
I don't do that. We were driving a Volkswagen a while ago, though, right?
I mean, people drive Fords, and I would argue that.
Yeah, you can't escape being a Nazi, pretty much, right?
It's hard to avoid systemic, anti-Semitism if you've interacted with a corporation that's over 70 years old.
Nice.
Not 100%. Like General Motors, I don't think. Yeah, but Ford definitely. You can very, very devastating documentary. I know people had some problems with it, Ken Burns, but yeah, talking about the U.S. and the Holocaust, right? So kind of talking about those connections and really, emphasizes how much Henry Ford, and also just the what's it called? See, I'm blanking on my
Nazi
my white supremacist science, pseudoscience, eugenics, right? The eugenics movement in the United States and everything like that. How much it informed a lot of what happened in Germany, right? And so it's So it's definitely. Anyways, so
Stephen Williams says hi from San Diego.
Yeah.
Hi, Stephen.
So Elon Musk, I definitely am not a fan. I mean, we have a Tesla, but I also know the reason why we have a Tesla is not because of Elon Musk. It's because it's a established electric car manufacturer, right? We felt.
And we couldn't afford a Rivian.
That's right. We can't
and we didn't
afford
want
a
a truck anyway.
And they weren't out yet. Yeah, definitely can't afford a Rivian.
No, I mean I have to my capoeira instructor like constantly talks about Elon Musk like he's married to him.
Yeah, no,
Terrible
he's
Elon Musk, horrible person. I can't believe anybody would buy anything. It just like goes on and on about what a terror. And then I just like I look sad on the Zoom, and he's like, I don't know why you people support him. It's like I don't know anything. I don't know what I know about him. I hate, and I'm not. I didn't buy a Tesla because of him. It's terrible.
yeah, and the thing is
I didn't buy Adidas because of the Nazi party either.
and actually when we bought the Tesla, there was the opposite problem where it was still like people were, what is it called? Coal. What is it called when the pickup trucks pour?
Oh, coal. That's right. Yeah, coal
Yeah.
rolling coal.
Rolling coal.
Is that
so,
it? Yeah.
So when we bought the car, actually, he was on the other side. It was like, oh, these electric cars, they're liberal Satan vehicles, right? So
Yeah.
I don't even know what to think about that. But regardless, so the interesting thing, so he's going to have to navigate this political thing, right? Which is that he's going to have to somehow figure out how to actually keep Twitter working. But the reality is also that Twitter only has 200 million users, right? Which is less than the number of people in the United States. Whereas you look at YouTube, you look at Facebook, right? Facebook's what, 2 billion people? And then TikTok is going to overtake or has already overtaken Twitter. So Twitter is actually it's important because politicians and mainstream media, right, are deeply invested and use Twitter, right? But the reality is that it isn't as universal of a platform as people think of it, right? It kind of has this outsized influence, which is true, but it's also not the monstrosity that YouTube or Facebook is, or TikTok even, right? And so the question is it? Does he even know? Like he's entranced by it, but the question is it even something that can be scaled beyond what it is? And then on top of it, can you make money off of it? So even if you charge $8 for all of those people who have the blue check marks, $8 a month, that's not going to be enough money to make it hugely profitable or to offset any loss of advertising dollars. So I'm just maybe looking forward to some new social networks, maybe.
Yeah,
And
because we need more in our lives.
And former bag boy, which, and I know I've said this too, is, the public service. And he's very vocal about that. It's like social networks should be a utility, that they shouldn't be owned by a corporation, because if everyone's communicating, right, via this, if the new town square is digital, I don't think a company should own the town square. It should be a community. But then these questions, which are coming up with Twitter, is like, well, how do you regulate speech within those environments without it being, either a cesspool or a fascist, corporate, speech prison. I don't know what to call it. So who knows? Speaking of which,
Okay.
Bolsonaro,
Bolsonaro.
your
Bolsonaro.
Brazilian compatriots are happy that
they're really happy.
that he's out.
Yeah, he's like President Trump. Like he's like a bad President Trump.
It's
was
like
always
somebody you could point to and say, at least we have Trump, but at least he's not Bolsonaro.
Yeah. He's like he's like the Florida man version of Trump. He's like the
Trump is the Florida man
version of Trump. Yeah.
Brazil is the
Florida
of South America, maybe.
Yeah,
or I don't know.
You were laughing. What were you
Oh
laughing
yeah.
about?
So they said on the news right before the election is like Bolsonaro was caught up in denying he was a cannibal. And I was just like that really got me, where it was like, okay, it's like we've got problems, but at least we're not having a conversation about cannibalism. Although we are, I guess, because people are watching this freaking Jeffrey Dahmer thing, which I refuse to watch. But But yeah, the political discourse was around cannibalism. But it turns out, yeah, he said in an interview years ago that he was talking about some indigenous people, and he was saying how they eat tourists or whatever, and then he said, I need an Italian, right? And it was just like what's the dynamic and then everyone, and obviously he's just kind of spouting craziness when he says that. It's not that he's an actual cannibal, but that became an issue. But then it's like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense, where it's like, first off, the indigenous people he was talking about, do not participate in cannibalism. So he was diminishing that indigenous group. And the reason why that is because, of course, he's interested in destroying their indigenous, those are some of the people that are in the way of depleting the rainforest and converting the rainforest selling it off. And so it's like you want to downplay them. And then on top of it saying, I need an Italian, is just kind of, puffery, man puffery, where it's just like, I'm a tough guy, and it's like, fuck the Italians. And so it makes perfect sense in that cockeyed world, right? Why he said those things. But then, yeah, having it twisted and turned into that. And that's happening locally, actually. It was where a local politician here, or, someone who's said, cash bail, if you have two men who have been arrested for domestic violence, and one of them, and you have cash bail, and one of them is wealthy and the other one is not, that person who's wealthy will, can buy themselves out and be on the streets. And his opponent is saying, this politician is saying that they want, criminals to go out on the streets. It's kind of flips it, where instead of saying rich people, cash bail allows rich people to get out of jail. Right. And they flipped it as him saying that he wants, to let domestic.
That's the new thing.
Domestic abusers out.
That's
regardless of and it's like, no, it's the opposite. It's like, oh, you actually have the power to keep someone in.
You may as well keep a bad person in
without a get out of jail if you're rich card.
John Albert says QAnon conspiracy theories accuse Democrats of cannibalizing children.
Yeah, exactly. That is true. You're right. I totally forgot about it because I just totally I don't even listen to that. Right? It's just like, and it's like, oh, it's crazy talk, and it's like, oh no, well, it's crazy talk. But then you have a person who goes into, an 80. Goes and attacks an 82-year-old man with a hammer, right? Because of these crazy cockeyed theories.
Oh my God! Right. So this is it used to be, the Republicans saying, oh, Democrats, they don't have family values. We have family values. And then, that was a million years ago, right? And now like this past year, it was going to be all about abortions and stuff, right? But apparently that's not good anymore, because the Republicans kind of know in their hearts that they're all having sex with their, they're all knocking up their sisters or whatever. This is not good. They're all getting their girlfriends pregnant, and they don't want their wives to know. So they're paying for their abortions. Every Republican knows, oh no, we can't really legalize abortion. So they're going to talk about it, but they kind of know.
I don't know if that's what it is. It's
just not, you can't, it's not a good, the Democrats want to kill our babies. It's not good. So their new thing is the Democrats are soft on crime. They want people to come in and kill everybody. They're soft on crime. They're criminals. The Democrats are criminals. Lock her up. That's their new thing. So I heard that. I heard it on the radio. They were saying that this is their talking points. Every fucking Republican is going to try to be elected by saying that their what is it called? Their opponent.
Law and order.
Yeah, their opponent is against law and order.
Right.
That's the talking points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Stephen
Williams says, dumbass. Joe Rogan doing Bailey's work for him. Hate that stoner asshole so much.
And then to tie into this, we talked about the crazy newspaper. Oh no, we didn't. We talked about it in our meeting. The marketing meeting.
So we got a newspaper, which is exciting because the press, local press is all but extinct now, like the Jedi.
So that's the thing is actually, part of the Stevenson and the McLean fortune. So yeah, and McLean Stevenson, yes, was part of these families, but like Adlai Stevenson, that is a lot of the wealth of that family came from the local newspaper. They were a local newspaper family, and then moved it, in politics, right? Newspapers and politics, and so yeah, even our local paper now has been bought by some conglomerate. But yeah, the crazy newspaper that we got in the mail is and I believe it's Uline is financing these kind of fake community newspapers.
Yeah. So it was so exciting because like when I came home, I saw the newspaper laid out there for me to read, and it said, what does it say? Governor Pritzker, who I love. Governor Pritzker is teaching children to be gay, or something. Like, what's the headline? That's the headline.
I don't know, but it's got a picture
like
of
that.
like transgender Pritzker or something, like one of his cousins.
What they're teaching in, and then
Oh, yeah.
another headline is what they're teaching in grade schools.
And then mugshots of criminals that are going to be like local, like
It's
people in
unbelievable.
local. But so these newspapers have been sent out all over the state of Illinois and other states. This has happened too, but it's financed by these right wing groups. And then ours is called the McLean County Times, is it? And then what is the one in Champaign is like the Champaign Sun or something? I can't remember. And then Chicago is like Windy City something. And so everybody gets these papers, but they're localized, and they're localized right-wing, extreme, far-right propaganda, right? Scare stuff, misinformation. So yeah, we got two different editions in 2 days.
Yeah, that's exciting. But we got the governor is going to make our children transgender.
Yeah.
Both of them, right? We didn't get the end of days because I saw.
We just got the end of days.
Oh, we
today.
got the end of days. Oh, because you were complaining that we didn't. You were.
I thought they had two different ones.
How come
right?
we didn't get the end
why
of days?
don't we get the end of days
Yeah.
one? And it's like, oh no, that was today.
And I said, okay, all right, so that's good. Well, maybe we'll get one tomorrow. It's exciting.
I don't know. It's less than a week away from election, but I'm figuring this is the big final push
for the
right?
for the weekend. Yeah, and I was watching The Handmaid's Tale, and they had anti-Pritzker ads.
Oh, Hulu, yeah. So that's the thing is if
Man.
you watch streaming services with ads now, you still get your political ads. So that's kind of neat, but upsetting. It's been very upsetting, actually, to see those political ads. Well, some of them, yeah. So I don't know where we were going with this, but yeah. So I don't know. I think Pritzker's going to be.
He's going to win, right? Because it's like John Albert's saying those are financed and printed by the family that owns Uline. Yeah, we know. He's because I didn't even listen to any of the debate, but it was like it wasn't intelligent at all, right? It was just Bailey saying he's going to make your child gay,
and he was also saying, Bailey's saying things like, well, even if I'm, anti-abortion. I'm not going to be able to change the laws in the state of Illinois, right? It's like, well, I may have this.
That was
position.
the smartest thing that he said.
Yeah, but it's also kind of
But that's the thing too. That's for all the Republicans who want to go rape their girlfriends and then have to pay for their abortions. So, I'm sorry. Did I say rape? Their girlfriends. At least I'm sorry. I shouldn't.
No.
Yeah.
But it's trying to, but I've tried to distill it though. It's hypocritical, yes, but there's a rationale behind it, which is that I believe it's wrong, and maybe I paid for an abortion, but I believe it's wrong, and it's about a duality, like being able to accept, or not even accept, just be a well, I don't want to say a flawed person, a human, but then want to apply strict laws upon all of humanity, even if just having no connection between your own human your humanity, and then being able to extend that and have empathy for others and understand that, well, I know this is wrong, I'm doing it, but I don't want it to be allowed.
That's what surprised me. You were always saying, well, like when the Me Too movement happened, you were like, oh my God, I didn't know we were still back there. And you were very surprised that, all women had to go through all this stuff.
I wasn't surprised, but it was like I thought things were getting better,
you thought
or
things
I
were getting
thought
better.
there weren't.
And
yeah.
what surprised me just recently is I think you were telling me about like people, it was either people getting abortions or people laying on their deathbeds with COVID, just screaming, "Don't
You're trying to poison me," or
yeah,
you
right? Is
did
that
this
what you
to
were?
me.
You're telling me.
Oh, yeah.
Was that, or was it
like people denying on their deathbed, but also people on their deathbed realizing, oh, I was wrong, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. So what else you
People
got?
people can live. Everyone can live with. Yeah. So I should talk about. I got obsessed with this show, The Sinner, just basically because of Bill Pullman. I'm obsessed with.
You're in love with Bill Pullman?
I am kind of as an actor.
I like
I got
that.
a man crush.
Yeah,
on
that's
Bill Pullman.
that makes
I'm fascinated by him. It's more. I wouldn't call it love.
That's very sexy.
I'm fascinated by him as an actor, and I've always realized he's a little off. And then I was like, he's been in a David Lynch movie, and then I realized, oh yeah, of course he's been in a David Lynch movie, and it makes perfect sense.
Which one?
The one that's not so great. Is he in Lost Highway? Yeah, he's in Lost Highway, which I have to watch again because he's in it. But yeah, and the
got a
series
man
is
crush. I
okay.
love that.
It's a little. It's not as good as the other, kind of murder, dark side of humanity shows. Like it's not as well done, or it's a little.
What's it about again?
He's a detective, and these horrible things happen, and then he it
So
seems
it's like Quincy.
it is like Quincy,
Okay.
except he's it's like Quincy or Columbo, right? And then you think this person did it, or this person does murder someone, for instance, but then it's like the reason why they murdered someone, it seems like it's totally irrational or something, and then it kind of goes, he figures out, all the deep, dark secrets and everything like that. But the reality is it's just watching him interact with other actors and the strangeness and his reactions and his facial tics and just the way, like, his face is just so dynamic. He's constantly reacting and making strange reactions. In that movie, The Zero Effect, right? So also, yeah, with a comment, so Zero Effect, I have to watch again the movie we talked about that was being filmed in Portland that one time. We played a show, and Ben Stiller and Ryan O'Neal were at the show.
We're at our show because of that. Yeah, okay.
They were making The Zero Effect, which
book.
which is a great movie, and he's the central character there, and he's, well, obviously very odd in that movie because it's kind of like a updated Sherlock Holmes. Not as bad as that sounds. Like nowadays, it's like, oh, everybody's an updated Sherlock Holmes. But it was a nice. I like that movie. And
you have a man crush. I love that. Yeah. Governor Pritzker has made you gay.
Well, I also listened to a great interview with Richard E. Grant. The guy who's in How to Get Ahead in Advertising. And, what's his name? The podcaster, the British podcaster. I forgot his name. I can't remember his name.
Oh.
Anyways, but Richard E. Grant, who's a straight guy, but there's a huge, long conversation at the beginning about his feminineness and all of
in the How to Get Ahead in Advertising.
No, that they were actually talking about how masculine is in that, but like how he's got a feminine side, but he's like, no, I'm not gay. And I was married for 40 years, It was very interesting, to hear him talk about that, him and Adam Buxton. Sorry, I forgot Adam Buxton's name. Both of them talking about feminine masculinity, right? Like how you're not, and how that plays out. And so, and so being able, Adam Buxton was really good about this, talking about that. It's like, being able to, being comfortable with saying, oh yeah, this guy is interesting and everything like that. It's not that you're, and not have to deal with or not having a problem with like you or dudes saying fag, right? And it's like where it's like, oh no, you can talk about this stuff without, feeling threatened.
Yeah, women love other women. I'm in love with the woman, with the wife, the main wife from The Handmaid's Tale. Oh my God, she's so gorgeous. I love her like a sister though, because she kind of looks like my sister. Dannon says the scene with Robert Blake at the party is one of my favorites.
I gotta watch
Even
it
if
again.
Lost Highway isn't my favorite Lynch movie,
Yeah,
so creepy
I
and
gotta
fun.
watch it again.
Okay.
I gotta watch it again.
And then he says
'cause-
he loves the Zero Effect.
Oh, Zero Effect is such a great movie.
God, I don't remember that. Well, the thing is that you actually do have like a man crush on, what's his name?
Ryan O'Neal.
Yeah, you've
Yeah.
always, yeah. I don't find him attractive at all.
I don't-
He's a truck driver. No, not a truck driver. but-
Ryan O'Neal is not a great actor. Ryan O'Neal is like a hollow vessel.
Well, that's what they say about Han Solo. What's his name?
Yeah,
That's what they say
very
about Harrison
similar.
Ford.
Very similar.
Yeah.
But the thing is I think Ryan O'Neal actually became an actor, it's hard. Yeah, something happened. Well, it's probably
What,
just
do
the
they
drugs.
just say
It's probably
that
just
about-
cocaine?
All right.
Is
Do they
what affected Ryan O'Neal, made him more complicated.
do they just say that somebody's an empty vessel when like the I'm getting distracted by we have a caller. When they're pretty, when they're nice looking? Is that what the
but
problem is?
it's also so the reason why like an actor like Ryan O'Neal works in Barry Lyndon and What's Up Doc and The Driver. If you've ever seen the movie The Driver, where he barely talks at all in the movie, it's definitely a director. So like the Alfred Hitchcock school of directing, right, which is like actors are cattle, or Robert Bresson, who said, I don't, I just need people to stand there to play these characters, to the point where Robert Bresson, I talk about this, made a movie with a donkey, as the main character, and you feel you're weeping for this freaking donkey, and it's just all that happens is like this donkey just stares, there's just shots of this donkey looking at people, right? And you build this whole empathy because this director is able to do that, right? And so I think actors like Ryan O'Neal work really well with directors who are able to create emotional content without, like the actors are just kind of placeholders, right?
Okay, who is the opposite of an empty vessel? What actor is the opposite of an empty vessel?
Like your Robert De Niro maybe, or your Al Pacino.
So those
right?
guys are ugly. They're just ugly.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, so the thing is that they're
they
that's
can't
the
fall
thing.
back on their good looks or something. Like what?
But
who's
they can't.
who's
I
a
mean,
good looking, known good looking? And
Robert De
they're all-
Niro's been phoning it in for what, like 30 years
yeah.
now.
Who's
so it's
who's
like
a
you can,
who's
you
a
can
good
go
looking
there.
actor who is complicated?
I don't want to say Brad Pitt, but I'm occasionally impressed by Brad Pitt.
Okay. Daniel Day-Lewis is Dannon's saying. He's not good looking.
He's
though,
an
really.
actor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's an actor.
he's an actor. And so I don't know where I'm going with this, but yeah.
I'm
Whereas
goading
Bill
you.
Pullman. Bill Pullman's an actor, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's acting,
Yes.
and he's weird and he's unique. Yeah, and so
Kind of like Crispin Glover.
yeah, but Crispin. That's the thing is like Crispin Glover is a little too far out
He's
there,
nuts, right?
and his
Okay.
father too. Actually, so
Yeah.
his father. If you see, he was in like what, a James Bond. Like you see Chris. Oh, he's in Chinatown, right? Is Crispin? What's his father's name? Is weird also, right? But a little more subtle weird, right? And so Crispin Glover got a little too. I think it gets
Willem Dafoe.
too performative. Willem Dafoe, yeah, he's an actor, but he also understands. I think he understands the boundary.
What about Bruce Willis? Actor or no?
I heard Richard E. Grant was talking about Hudson Hawk, which he was in, and Adam Buxton was saying it's being reevaluated, and Richard E. Grant was like, it shouldn't be. It's an awful movie. He just and he was like, well, they're wrong. I was there. It's a bad movie, but he was saying it actually started out as a Bruce Willis idea. This is what I found fascinating. And then got destroyed by committee. Like they started rewriting it, and it was the guys from who did Heathers, right?
Oh,
kind
yeah,
of
that was a pretty good movie.
got that gig, but then it and I do remember reading stuff about it where it was like it got turned into a movie by committee, even to the point where it was like my watch is making beeping noises that I've never heard before. What is that?
Chris Garibaldi, our record cover.
He's got like some kind of priority signal that can
Yeah.
break through my
Yeah.
my silent notifications.
119
Also,
flower
I think
vinyl.
I believe I don't know if this is true, but the rumor is that they fixed Bruce Willis's hairline in every frame of the movie, and that was before computers. So someone painted.
Wow.
Yeah, they messed around with his hairline. That was how crazy that movie was. But anyways, where were we going with this?
I
don't
just
know.
want to know who else you have a man crush on, because I find it sexy.
I get obsessed with actors. I was also obsessed with the cinematographer James Wong Howe.
Oh yeah.
So it's just I'm just
Yeah.
because I've seen so many movies and I'm losing interest in specific movies and directors. I'm now finding other threads to obsess over. And so
Good.
a while ago it was
Good.
James Wong Howe, and now it's Bill Pullman, and I'm sure it'll be something else in a week or two.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's good. Well, I'm enjoying Andor.
Andor, yeah. I'm enjoying Andor now that it's turned into a prison drama.
Oh my God. It's like, it's so, yeah, but it's got callbacks to like, every time I look at it, it looks like French, like, what, how do you call playtime? What kind of cinema is that?
I guess French
cinema.
No,
like,
it's not,
like,
though.
but it's,
Silent. Well, that to me, it's visual. I don't know what you would call it.
Modern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like modern.
Yeah. It was definitely a modernist, but that's the thing about Tati is it's a critique of modernism too. So that's what's interesting
This
about
is
Playtime.
too. The
is
bad
it's
guy.
so beautiful.
Yeah.
And so modernist, but it's a critique of modernism too. That's what's really interesting about that. And Monuncle, right? And that's the one with the house. I need to watch that again now that we
if you
have
watch
smart houses, to see how that so that's
but
interesting.
So the cinematography just as the set, I guess the CGI, like it's just gorgeous.
But the office set, so for you it was like, oh, that's Playtime, but for me it was the apartment. So
I'm not as knowledgeable. About
but the Billy
film as you.
Wilder movie, The Apartment, and the Office that Jack Lemmon works in, right? It's precursor to Playtime, but it's that same idea where it's like so severely modern and overwhelming and geometric. There's some shots in that movie where they kind of built this office set, but then they painted the background to just make it go off into infinity. Right?
Yeah.
That was one of the earliest films I think that kind of made that kind of flip over to like, oh, this world that we've built after the war, this executive kind of corporate world has a poison to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I have really no basis for talking about Playtime except that it makes me really happy. So, and
but
I
Playtime
like
has
that
look too. In
but
the
sort of,
offices,
I think it does.
Yeah,
but
no,
then
totally.
then we were talking about the callback to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
And I was thinking it was THX 1138.
And then and then we were like, oh yeah, THX 1138. So hopefully it's done with like
and the last episode, the most recent episode, actually ended kind of on a cliffhanger in a way where you felt like it was resolving that hour-long segment, but also made you want to watch the next one, which every other episode of Andor has thrown me into a rage because there are moments in those episodes where it's like, okay, that's it, it's over. And then it's like, then there's 10 more minutes.
They move a little bit further.
Yeah, and they move a little further, and then it ends.
Mad,
and it doesn't feel like a resolution. It doesn't feel like a cliffhanger. It feels like this is someone who has made movies but hasn't made a series before. And then on top of it, either they've been told that each episode has to be 50 minutes, or they aren't. Yeah, because there are other shows. I feel like Severance did this. I know, like the Bear, that show about the restaurant in Chicago, where it was like there's the single shot episode that's amazing. And then I looked back and it's like, oh, that episode's only 20 minutes, and other episodes, like I think the first episode's 38 minutes, and then they average around 30, but they actually have the freedom. And that's what's going on now with streaming, where it's like, oh no,
Right.
you don't have that.
Yeah, you
that
don't have to. It doesn't have to
22 minutes plus ads and the
Yeah.
breaks here. It's like you can start playing with and cutting things at these appropriate moments, and that's not happening with Andor, and that's frustrating me. And I don't know if that's just a dictate that it's got to be this. Each episode's got to be this exact amount of time, or Tony Gilroy doesn't understand how to build episodic television.
Probably has to be that, it
Yeah.
probably wasn't built. Wasn't built to be episodic.
He wrote
Yeah.
a 12-hour movie and has chopped it up into 12 pieces. And
Probably
it just
what happened.
that this episode this
Yeah.
week actually ended in the right place and worked really well. So that was the thing with me when I watch it. I'm just like, how does it end? Like every time, and the younger child is the same way. He's just like, he knows.
Well, there's
Like
an
he's
awful lot
got
of
an
talking
instinct
for him.
about he's got an instinct about dynamics of movies and shows already. I don't know where that comes from.
Both
but
of you guys are on your phones, and I was like staring at the screen. I was like, "What's going to happen next?" But it's fine. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm glad that the Andor, like that Cassian Andor, is just kind of so imperfect, because it was hard for me to rewatch Rogue One just because it's kind of a sad ending. I don't care about the uploading the data like you do. I'm just like, oh,
so
man.
that's who. So did Tony Gilroy also do Rogue One?
I don't know.
Is
I
it
don't
the same
actually know.
director?
I have no idea. Sorry.
Because I've seen his movies. I think his movies are good.
What
It's-
other movies has he made?
Didn't he do Michael Clayton? Is he the one who did Michael Clayton? That's a great movie.
Jeez, I haven't. I have no idea. I'm just
but
watching.
he's a
Andor
writer
'cause
too, right?
it's
He's
Star Wars. It's
but
nice. He's doing a good job on it.
it's good, but yeah, I'm still frustrated by that.
You always
The
find
structural
something to be
Yeah.
irritated about. But I
Yeah.
guess that's good. You're a professor.
If I have to watch this Drek, I've gotta get something out of it. It's fine. It's not that bad. And
The costumes are unfucking believable.
I'm tolerating it.
Yeah. And if you want to hear more of me talking about Andor, you should listen to
Crossover.
Yeah, listen to mine and Sarah Garibaldi and my Forced, a ladies podcast, a ladies Star Wars podcast. You should listen to our ladies Star Wars podcast
All right.
on Lotus Pod. Is that
What
okay
is the name
for
of
me to
it?
do?
Did you say the name?
Forced.
Okay, you did say the
Yeah.
name. Okay. I was worried that you
Best-
said.
Best name ever.
All right.
Thanks for listening.